Well, hey everyone, here we are. I see a few people coming on. Almost made it by 12:31. Rushing around. Like last time, I had to go to a church building facility that is in Alma, which is about 15 minutes away after finishing my conference at a little bit after noon and signing a couple of books and talking to people. So here we are. So I see Temple and my sister Jerry. They finished up camp meeting last week. I heard it was good. Wendy, no band camp today. And Temple, how am I feeling? I'm better. I appreciate all of your prayers. Tuesday was a rough day. I got to the evening service and it was literally soldiering through. I felt like I was so tired I could just hardly function. I had to sit down during some of the singing, and so it was pretty bad, but made it through. And I just felt like it was spiritual warfare because I was on Wednesday night or Tuesday night I was talking about the that experience that I had back in October and the events leading up to it and experiencing the pleasure of God, the transformation, and I felt like there were a lot of people who needed to hear it, and that it was a fight. And then I had other people praying for me. And yesterday I was still tired, but it was different. So thank you for your prayers. Keep praying. Oh, you still have band camp heading back now, huh, Wendy? So, hey to Katie and Pam and Debbie Mazio. So here we are. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about it in just a moment. So if you saw the going live announcement today, um, you saw that's kind of the poster that they've been using, or the logo, I guess, for St. Louis Church God Camp Meeting. And they built a nice little seating area, rock garden with a cross. It's funny because I was talking to the coordinator back maybe before the first of the year or around the first of the year, and about what the theme should be. And um, at that point, God was showing me a lot of things about living right side up along that theme. And I've had a number of people come to me and say, "Wow, when I saw the theme, I thought that's pretty cheesy." And then as we got to this week and the world feels like it's upside down, they're all saying, God knew exactly what he was doing with creating this theme. So yeah, he certainly did. So that was the announcement, and having a great time here. All right, for some fun and some thinking, I saw this one and I thought it was interesting. You know, there are some things that you just never think about, like Mount Rushmore from the Canadian side. I just I thought that was hilarious, and I didn't realize it looked like that. But what does it look like from the other side? And then I don't know if this is actually a person or a model. So if it's actually a real person, you guys will have to tell me. If it wasn't for that nice man who discovered electricity, we'd all be watching television by candlelight. Little perspective there, right? Uh-huh. Yeah, that's true. Not. And then here's another one. Um, and so this is a picture of something I can imagine young parents saying. So as young parents, brand new parents, first baby, leaving the hospital. Now, so what time should we wake up the baby in the morning? Mm-hmm. Yes, sirree. I don't think you have to worry about that. So those are things just for a little bit of fun and make us stop and consider not just making fun of other people, but of the times when we say stupid things, think stupid things, not really using our brains. All right, a lot happening in the world. I thought about talking about the Democratic vice presidential candidate, but frankly, I just, Jesus, I'm voting for Jesus, so a lot of other people can talk about that stuff. Maybe we'll deal with it. But as I've been talking here all week long, um, it's about God being revealed in so many different ways and us just paying attention to Him. So, I got up early this morning and I was thinking and praying and reflecting and thanking God about what He's been doing. And one of the things that really has leaped out to me as I've gone through this week, striving to let God use me in other people's lives, is that we need to remind ourselves constantly that life is all about relational connections. Life is all about relational connections. That when somebody asked Jesus, what is the greatest command? And he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's all about relationships. It's all about those relational connections. And I've just watched this week how important it is to make those. So we'll talk about that in a minute. In our do not be surprised moment, striving to be wise as serpents, innocent as doves, looking for truth no matter what. Do not be surprised when fear makes people stupid. We talk about this a lot, but I'm amazed how many times I catch myself being surprised, and then I just have to come back to, no, when people get afraid, they get stupid. And so I saw this little poster, feeling like a bad parent, quokkas, whatever that is, looks like some maybe New Zealand or Australian animal, toss their babies at predators so they can escape. Yeah, when you get afraid, you do even stupid things, the things that you think you would never do. So we need to be careful that we're not surprised when people do things out of fear, and we need to guard ourselves against making choices and doing things because we're afraid. Do not be surprised when pride makes people stupid. So fear makes people stupid, pride makes people stupid. So I saw this, I saw what I heard about, this article where New York's true nursing home death toll from the virus is cloaked in secrecy. Unlike every other state with major outbreaks, New York only counts residents who died on nursing home property and not those who were transported to hospitals and died in the hospital. That statistic could add thousands to the state's official care home death toll of just over 6,600. But so far, the administration of Democratic Governor Andrew Cuomo has refused to divulge that number, leading to speculation that the state is manipulating the figures to make it appear it is doing better than other states and to make a tragic situation less dire. Do not be surprised when people in their pride, they want to protect their reputation, they want to manipulate situations, they want people to think better of them than they really are. And this is so we can say, yeah, of course, people like Andrew Cuomo, but we do the same thing. We need to be careful that we are pursuing truth and love and not doing things to make people think more of us, better of us than we actually are. So it's no surprise this is going to happen. So don't be alert. We need to be alert, wise as serpents, not be surprised, and understand that's going to happen. And it's just going to get worse as we go towards the election this fall. Hey, I see Alvin Conley joining, Springfield, Ohio. Welcome. And then do not be surprised when things are hard when you're trying to follow God. Do not be surprised when things are hard when you are striving to follow God. I have had the privilege this week to meet two brothers, Rudy and Helmut, here at the St. Louis camp meeting. And last night I was talking to Helmut. So Rudy's a little bit older and he's begun to fail. He's about 84, 85 years old. And Helmut is a little bit younger. But Helmut was talking to me um, about their childhood. And they were actually in um, the eastern part of Germany during the 1930s and the 1940s. And so they were under the Nazi regime. And when they started talking to me about this, what Rudy led with was they were in Eastern Europe, and he remembers when 46 people were baptized at a church service when the Nazis were trying to shut churches down. It was actually a Church of God, and he was talking about that. And then Helmut filled in some of the details. Said that the Russians. So in 1945, January, February 1945, the Russians began to push toward Germany, and so their family had to flee for their lives, and they headed towards Berlin. And then that spring, the U.S. and British bombers were constantly bombing Berlin. He said 5 or 6 times a day, all day long, and they had survived all of that. Helmut told me that at one worship service, the Nazi party had sent a soldier to come and shut him down or arrest them, and he stood at the back of the service and watched through the entire worship service. And at the end, everybody knew he was there. Everybody knew why he was there, but they just continued to worship. And at the end of the service, the man came to the front and he said, I was sent here to shut you down, but I'm going back and telling my superiors that you are good people and I am not going to arrest you. And I thought, that is an incredible miracle. And I've been talking about Bonhoeffer, who was there during the same period of time. So these brothers immigrated to the United States, and they said they were refugees welcomed with wide open arms into Church of God congregations here in Michigan that actually spoke German back in those days in 1950. So at that point, um, let's see, Rudy would have been 15, I think. Yeah, 15, and Helmut would have been about 12 when they immigrated. And just to talk to somebody who had actually, as a child, been through that, and now here they are worshiping God, praising God, not bitter, is a real privilege. Things get hard. Don't be surprised when things get hard when you're trying to follow God. They were trying to follow God. All right, so what I sense God was saying is remember that life is about relational connection. Remember that life is about relational connections. A couple scriptures. Galatians chapter 6, verses 1 and 2. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. And so relational connections, he says, even when other people do things wrong, rather than condemning them, our relational connection should be to put our arm around them and restore them in a spirit of gentleness, to bring them back to the truth, bring them back to Christ. He says, keep watch on yourself, lest you too be tempted. So when we get proud, we get stupid, and instead of restoring people, we condemn them. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. And the picture I have of verse 2 is carrying burdens together, carrying each one of you grabbing the end of a burden and carrying it together, and so fulfill the law of Christ. Doing things together, living life, accomplishing tasks. And so I watch here at St. Louis camp meeting as people are working together to make worship services happen, make children's ministry, youth ministry, adjusting because of all of the restrictions here in Michigan, and just working together without complaint because they want to accomplish God's purposes. And then Romans chapter 12, verses 15 and 16, rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep, live in harmony with one another. Do not be haughty or proud, but associate with the lowly. Consider Never be wise in your own sight. So it's about being humble. It's about considering others the same as ourselves and just walking together through life's relational connections. Life really is about relational connections, but it all has to start with our first relational connection, and that is God. So if we want to live in those relational connections, we need to keep coming back to this. We go to God in relationship to surrender, listen, and obey. Surrender, listen, and obey. Always focusing on God first. And then after we do that, then we can focus on those personal relationships. So here's an interesting thing. I don't know if you recognize these people. Yes, that's me on the left. That's Sheila on the right. I think we were like 8 years old or something there. We look so young. And that's Andrew and Carissa on my lap. So it had to be the summer of 1985 because that's the year Carissa was born. Andrew looks pretty pensive there, a little scared of whatever's happening, whoever's behind the camera. And Carissa just looks like, yeah, whatever. And that pretty much catches their personality. So here's what's funny. We're talking about relational connections. Pastor Mike Simmons, I think he pastors in Grand Rapids, Michigan, came up to me after the conference yesterday. And he said, and he held up his phone and he said, is this you? I said, yes, it is. Where in the world did you get that? He said, I posted on my Facebook page that I am at St. Louis camp meeting and that Herb Schaefer is the speaker this year. And one of the people in his church responded and said, is that the Herb Schaefer from Beaver, Pennsylvania? Well, in 1985, we were in Beaver, Pennsylvania. And she sent him this picture. She said, and if I get it right, Mike, if you're watching, you can correct me. She said that there were, so this is a person in Mike's church said she had a friend who had dated my brother George and then sent him this picture. Now, I don't know anything. I don't know anything about that person. I didn't recognize the name of the person who sent the picture. And I don't know how they would have gotten that picture. But you never know. And I just thought it was hilarious that somebody in Grand Rapids, Michigan, 35 years later, has a picture of us, and now I'm the speaker at St. Louis camp meeting. Relational connections. It really is. Life is all about relational connections, isn't it? We need one another. So enjoy people. We really do need one another. If the pandemic and the shutdown has shown anything, it's shown that we really do need each other. As we look at those relational connections, we need to relax, just relax and enjoy being together with people. And I find myself over the years having moved much more to what is the next thing I got to do? What do I got to accomplish? Where am I going? What's my agenda? I got to get going. I got to go. And I really sense God is saying you need to relax and just enjoy the people that you're around when you're around them. And so on my way over, I stopped in Toledo, Ohio, and spent the evening and the night and the morning with Sheila's brother Jim and his wife Lynn. And we just relaxed and had a nice visit. And it's just so fulfilling because life is all about those relational connections. People teasing my hair here, teasing me about my hair. I started the first service by just announcing and telling them the story about why I'm leaving my hair long so that I'm reminded every time I look in the mirror about all that God is doing. And so just the enjoyment of teasing each other and laughing together and conversations about things. We need each other. I got to tell you, so usually at these camp meetings, there's a speaker and then there's a worship leader. And the worship leader here this year is Mike Anderson from I think it's Fortnite, Indiana, in the Indianapolis area. I never heard of him. And quite frankly, I've done these things enough to have had some bad experiences. And I didn't know who he was. And I called him. We talked a little bit. But I got here, and God has been leading him on the same kind of track of focusing on praising God. And I have been so thrilled and blessed, and tears coming to my eyes as I've sung songs of worship. He's brought us into the presence of God, just enjoying the gifts that God has given to him and his sensitivity. We need each other because I couldn't do that with my words, but with music, Mike is bringing us into the presence of God. We need to remember that life is all about relational connections, and we need each other, so we need to give and receive with others. We need to give and receive with each others. So I needed a place to do from where God sits. I tried to do it from the campgrounds, and their internet connection doesn't have the capacity for it. So I started scrambling trying to find some place, and so I contacted a pastor friend who had another pastor friend who pastors 12 minutes away here in Alma, and who is actually the daughter of another pastor friend that I have. And all those relational connections just reminded me again. So I've met her and a couple of times, and she greeted me at the door. She said, "Oh yeah, we're so thrilled to let you have a place to work, to give and to receive." Those iron sharpen iron relationships are so important. Last night, I talked about fasting as the path to experiencing intimacy with God. And I get this kind of response wherever I go and talk about fasting in that way. The coordinator, a lady about my age who's been in ministry, who has coordinated all these kinds of events, and she said, "I've never ever heard fasting portrayed as something that is appealing, that is about relationship and as a path toward experiencing intimacy with God." I've always heard it taught as a duty, and you have to, and usually by people who are kind of arrogant about it. And I thought, good, because we need each other in order to experience the depth of relationship. And that was affirming to me. That was helpful for her. We need each other. So we need to focus on giving and receiving, not just giving, not just receiving, but both. And then we need each other. So we need to make time to listen. Make time to listen. One of the ways that we can enjoy each other and give and receive is to make the time to listen to other people's stories. So Rudy is 85 years old, and he's begun to have some mental mind problems. Some, I don't know if senility or what it is, and so he's kind of quiet. He's kind of backwards, but he tried to talk to me several times. I couldn't understand him. But there was a woman who the Holy Spirit just nudged her to kind of come alongside of him, make sure that he was okay, and began to hear his story. She shared his story with me. And so I was able to listen. She kind of talked, and then Helmut, his brother, came up and he started talking about the story. And the privilege, the honor of listening, making time to listen to other people's stories. A woman came up to me at one of the first services this week, and she said, "I was in Charlevoix 2 years ago, and that was a camp meeting that I did here in northern Michigan. And she said, I got your book, Intimacy and All, but I'm kind of embarrassed to say that I put it on a shelf and I never read it. But I saw that you were going to be the speaker here at St. Louis, and so I thought, boy, I better get that out and read it." So she was feeling guilt or shame or something. And she said, so I started reading it last week, and she started getting tears in her eyes. She said, "I can't tell you how God has used that book to draw me to himself in preparation for this week." And I looked at her and I said, don't be ashamed. Don't feel guilty about not reading the book. God kept you from reading that book for 2 years. And then he brought it to your attention at the time when you needed it the most. And she said, "You're right." You see, we need each other. Her sharing that affirmed me as I listened to her. And then me sharing my perspective, her listening to what my response was, affirmed her. So we need each other. We need to make time to listen to each other. Um, so we need each other. It's all about relational connections. And then we need one another. So let people into your life. Let people in. Sometimes we get so all about what do I need to do for other people that we don't let other people help us. So I have recognized more and more over these last months just how much I've needed people to pray for me, to encourage me, to help me. This week, some of my pastor prayer partners have been letting me know they're praying for me and they're sensing what God is saying, reminding me to lean into God. And I have reached out to ask some to pray specifically for me when I've been having bad days. And then we really need each other to see the bigger picture. Tuesday, I'd ask many of you to pray for me. Tuesday was that bad night, and John Miller is a good friend of mine from here in Michigan. We've known each other for a long time, and I wanted to catch up. So Tuesday night, even though I was exhausted, we went back to his cabin and had some lemonade and visited for a while, and finally I was just so tired I couldn't do it anymore, and I stood up and I said I gotta go, and he stopped and he said, "I'm going to pray for you because tonight while you were preaching, I sensed some demonic spirits of fatigue and weariness that were around you." And he put his hands on my shoulders and he prayed for me and he prayed for me and asked, and I'm telling you, he not only did he see it and recognize it, but he prayed that God would protect me from that. And his prayers and your prayers made such a big difference. You see, we need each other. We need to let people in. A couple years ago, I might have thought, John, I don't know, I don't know what that seems a little weird. But now I understand how much we are under attack, and that there are times when my prayers for me are not enough. I need to let other people in, and I need to allow other people to serve. It's all about relational connections. And talking about relational connection, I see Irene Deal here. And those are some relational connections that I've had at Panera and Bethel Park and that I really miss. I'm so looking forward to when Panera opens back up and I can catch up with everybody there. And Jerry, you're right. Sometimes it's difficult to be on the receiving end because of our pride. We have to humble ourselves and say, I can't do it on my own, which is a lie from the devil. Relational connections. So, um, um, that's the application slide as well as here's what God's saying. So let me just encourage you to surrender, listen, obey. Lean into the fact that we were made for those relational connections. So sometimes just enjoy them, give, receive as God gives you opportunity. Make time to listen, and allow people to listen to you. And then together, let people in. God, I pray that you would help us to focus on the things that matter to you, to slow down when we need to slow down, to sit with people when we just need to sit. God, I pray that you would help us not to be distracted by the enemy in any way, but to really revel in the friendships and the connections that you provide for us. I pray for each one of these folks, whatever's going on this day, you would be with them. I pray for all the people that are here as a part of the St. Louis camp meeting, that God, you would transform their lives, that you would use me in these last conference, 2 more worship services, Keep me out of the way and just let your presence shine. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen. So thank you again for all of your prayers. Please continue to pray for me. There's at so many levels. Um, I know God is moving, and then there's stuff going on in the spiritual heavenly realms that we don't even know. I can't even tell you how many people have told me they hadn't even planned to be here. They weren't planning to be here until like the last couple of weeks, and they just sensed God wanted to be here, and God has been moving in their life. And other people have said, I'm talking to people all over campground that are saying they're hearing exactly what they needed to hear. And it's not me, it's God. God is working in response to your prayers. So continue to pray for me for physical health and strength. Um, I'm telling you, Tuesday night I was wondering if I was even going to be able to function, but God has come through, and there's no other explanation except it's been a spiritual infusion. So no Bible study this evening because I'll be preaching here at St. Louis Camp Meeting Saturday. I was going to try to stop and do a 12:11 on my way back, but I just think it'd be better if we skip that one and I can just travel back, get back and prepare for Sunday. Continue to pray for St. Louis Camp Meeting. And then Sunday, we're going to take a deeper look into the true gospel. We're going to be using some more clips from the American gospel and contrasting the false teachings that have crept into American Christianity with God's true gospel. So you'll want to be a part of that. And then do it together, my friends. Do it together. Yeah, I love y'all. Thanks for spending time with me. Thanks for your prayers. I am just so excited about what God is doing. One last thought. In the past, I would be so excited about how God uses me in these kinds of situations like camp meetings. But God has been working in my life so much that now, as I think about coming home, I have the same kind of excitement because God is using me and we're seeing Him work in so many different ways. It's just a different kind of venue. So, God, I just am so grateful for what God's doing, and we'll see what happens. Life is incredible when you're living in the presence of God. Hey, Jim Tibbs is jumping on here, my old friend from camp team. Jim, I have been meeting people that were at Camp Warner in Michigan when we were on camp team together in 1976. Amazing, isn't it? All right. Well, that's it for today. Love y'all. Now let's go boldly, boldly, boldly be God's church. Bye.